Good evening, Council. Today is Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. It is 6 p.m., and I'll call this regular meeting of the Barre City Council to order. Mr. Manager, members of the Council, do you have any adjustments to the agenda?
Just one minor adjustment, Mayor. I'm requesting to move consent item 4D to be 4-B so that Councilor Guston, she's conflicted from voting for that. That way the council can take that item separately and she can, yeah.
Okay, want to put it under 4A?
It could be under 4A with the warrants, yeah, either way.
We'll do it under 4A.
Yeah, perfect.
We'll still have, I think we'll still have a quorum for 4A, so
That's it.
we'll be good. Anything else, Council? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to visitors and communications. Is there anyone wishing to address the council regarding an item that is not on the agenda?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Mr. Trombley, how are you?
Well, and how are you?
Good, thank you.
I would like to be heard by the council on a matter concerning last week's public hearing relative to the public hearing seeking the no match disaster relief money from the state of Vermont. I didn't really become aware of the full impact of that hearing until I read about it in Mr. David Delcour's well-written article that appeared over the weekend, and I didn't even read it on the weekend, but I read it after the weekend and realized that the public hearing was more broad-based than I had perhaps anticipated. I thought it was mostly, if not all, about development money to build more housing, but there was also components that was of more interest to me, which is the money that could be made available, should be applied for by the city to address the very adverse impacts to Barre City from the Potash Brook. And I've watched the Potash Brook for more years than I care to admit. I don't want anyone to do the math and figure out, well, that guy must be at least that old. The Potash Brook has, for those who are not as familiar with it, it comes down from Woodland Drive, crosses across Nelson Street, and goes down in somewhat parallel with Delmont Avenue, and goes down through the Courier Park, and then from there moves forward to the Summer Street and the Summer Street parking lot and crosses into the downtown area. And it was described as, in the original paperwork, as being dealing with the issues concerning flooding in Courier Park. Well, I think the issue is way broader than Courier Park, and it goes deeply into the rest of the city and has very adverse impacts on buildings downtown and on businesses downtown. And the original paperwork called for at least $500,000, or at least that was one of the speculations that was presented by Mr. Delcour, and it was reduced down to $50,000. And I think that the Potash Brook is a major problem, and this is no match money. This is the kind of money that probably taxpayers wouldn't want to pony up through normal tax revenue. And this is a great opportunity to not just study the problem, but to do something about it. I think the solution is somewhat obvious to me. It's not unlike what was done after the 1927 flood. The East Barre Dam was built to stop water before it penetrated the city corporate boundaries. Because if you let the problem with it now is dealing with it once it gets inside of Barre City, there's no place to really remove it and take down the level of harm. I've talked with, at one point briefly with Rich Baker about it, and I think the solution is to stop the water before it comes in, and that's what I would think the city could study with asking for grant money and go out and find land outside of Barre City. This is more of a problem that can be better solved by buying land or developing or acquiring land rights to allow water to be put aside much in the way of East Barre Dam. East Barre Dam can hold millions and millions of cubic feet of water when a flood event occurs. And something by engineers could be designed similarly with the proper property rights to store that water in a safe place where it can subsequently be released in a more measured, safe way. It would keep a lot of water, putting it bluntly, it would keep a lot of water off of the downtown area, which now impacts the vitality of the downtown when we have a flood event. And that was what I was disappointed to see, that stripped down dramatically in the plan. And I would respectfully ask the council to entertain or at least consider some kind of a motion to reconsider the approval of what was there, to incorporate some approval of a significant commitment to seek grant money to work constructively to do something about the Potash Brook. I think the Potash Brook is one of the biggest culprits that adversely affects flooding events in the downtown area. And that was what I was hoping you would, this is what I'm asking you to hear me on. I'm asking you to consider that, as I'm not sure there is going to be any other pots of money out there within a foreseeable future that would be available to do something like this. And ultimately, that's really, in my view, the real purpose of the money. It's to mitigate flood impacts. And it should be one of the things that's considered in the grant application for the city of Barre, the well-being of the citizens and their removal of the flood or the mitigation of flood impacts.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Oliver. There's always a backstory. There's always an explanation. And let me start, and then I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Guston. Let me start by saying that I don't disagree with you. But if you look at the CDBG-DR funds, the money that is made available, the $55 million being made available to Washington and Lamoille County, the state leaned heavily into housing, roughly 65%. 65%, give or take, of those funds are dedicated solely to housing, not necessarily to flood mitigation. So we tried to tailor our applications in the same, basically in the manner that the state told us to, or requested that we do. So Councilor Guston, do you want to address the Potash Brook?
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for coming and speaking on the Potash Brook. This is something that I have been working very hard on for some time now. Like you, and like the mayor, I don't disagree. I was disappointed that we had to scale the funding request down, and that was done within the constraints of the CDBG-DR program. And the amount of monies that we had to sort of shuffle around to fit both the overall buckets that they made available to us, and then the individual buckets that we then had to recalculate to make our own grants fit within the warning for those hearings, as I understand it. So I would have loved, actually, my first idea, if you go back, when do we start talking about this? Like July? My first list idea was $3 million for the Potash Brook and the Courier Park neighborhood to do work in there. When we went through the river project in the summer of '24, the river scientists had identified a number of possible fixes. They did not bring up a flood control dam. That would be an interesting one to talk with them further about, but they identified a spot for a debris catcher. They identified 2 different areas for floodplain expansion that would slow water through. And we've also identified the rebuilding of that channel where it goes through the Courier Park neighborhood, because that has narrowed considerably, and some of those culverts are not doing what they should anymore. So we know some pieces of the work that we need to do, but when we came to the CDBG-DR program and we pitched them that large sum of money to do the work, what they said back to us was that none of it has been engineered, none of it has been planned out specifically yet. So we moved forward with the planning grant instead. And actually this then technically falls into the planning grant bucket, which is an even smaller bucket than the flood mitigation bucket in the CDBG-DR. So we had to work both within the constraints of that program. However, all of those sort of, as the mayor says, backstory pieces set aside, addressing the flooding challenges in the Courier Park neighborhood from the Potash and the Edgewood Brooks is a component of the flood resiliency plan. It's one of the key projects that we will be receiving updates about going forward for until we get it resolved. So I do hope and expect to present the results of those engineering reports that we, knock wood, receive from this grant program, and if not, we'll be chasing funding in other capacities. I think that this particular project could be a prime possibility for the next hazard mitigation grants rounds. We submitted a bunch for that last year, and those will keep coming up every year. So I think this is top of my personal list to move into that possibility for this coming year. And very lastly, that was a lot of words, and I apologize for a little bit of a ramble there. I've talked to a number of residents in the Courier Park neighborhood. Would love to talk to you further about your ideas for that neighborhood and what you think in that neighborhood, so that we can make sure that everyone whose property borders that brook and who is affected by that brook and the flooding in there is all on the same page as we move forward with this. So please feel free to reach out. Would love to talk further.
Thank you, Oliver. Anyone else under visitor send communications?
May I speak in a response?
Oh, of course.
So if the numbers say 65% of the money should be tailored to housing, I think at least that amount, if not more, was reflected in the grant application request. So we're certainly, if we're looking at $500,000 or $2 million or $1 million for the potash problem, I don't think we would interfere with or knock down that 65%. I think we're beyond 65%. So with the application, as I understand the numbers, so it's in good shape that way. So that's point number one. And point number two is this is more than Courier Park, and I cannot emphasize that enough. I can sit down with a major rain event, and I did it with the 2024 July 10 flood, and I can tell you where the water begins to surface. This is a tube. The Potash Brook is a tube that once it leaves the Courier Park area is underground, and the tube can only handle so much water. And it doesn't take a major rain event for that tube to be overwhelmed. And I can show you the spots where it starts to erupt, and that's the water that comes down and bothers North Main Street, goes into Depot Square, and goes into downtown properties, has affected a number of properties we all know that have, people have become inundated with mud and silt and been discouraged in 2023 of July 10 and the week or two following that, and a lot of negative events. So it is not just Courier Park, it is the downtown. And the downtown is really a very important component, always has been. And I think the mayor has correctly promoted the downtown, has been a big cheerleader of the downtown, has done many nice things for the downtown over the years. I'm very much aware of it. And this is just one more cheerleading event for the downtown, because the downtown is the downtown people are being pressed in a way that is not a good thing to continue to press them with this water. When you can identify a solution to the thing, it's common sense. A lot of it, I can tell you. You know, I had a good education at Spalding High School, and one of the teachers used to have a favorite expression. She'd correct you, say, "Well, that's common sense. The man on the street knows that." And this is common sense to me, and the man on the street knows that the Potash Brook is a hell of a problem for the city of Barre in terms of flood mitigation. And I think I would urge you, and with all of the strenuousness of my persuasiveness for the benefit of the downtown, there are people who I know, people who are very discouraged. They're still there, but you know, drying out. It took them a month or two, and some of those people are people that are very important to the fabric of downtown. Anything that we can identify to help the flood in the downtown is something that should not be cast away lightly. I think this is a great opportunity to the extent that the thing can be revisited, to put more money into it to help the flooding. The big culprit for downtown is the Potash Brook, and an equal culprit for downtown is probably the Gunners Brook, although down at the time that Steve McKenzie worked on the Brook Street matter, he acquired properties on Brook Street and on Maple Avenue that acted as retention ponds for some of the water from the Gunner Brook to be held back and to keep it from coming downtown. So that was done on a very small scale. Something would need to be done on a bigger scale for the Potash Brook, and I think even more could be done for the Gunners Brook. But it's all about, and again, it's the man on the street knows that. It's common sense. It's keeping the water out of the bottom of the bowl. And Barre City's the bottom of the bowl, and everything just runs in on it. And to put screens over culverts is really not even a bandage over a wound, and not even a good bandage. You've got to do things to keep the water out of the bottom of the bowl. And I think the people in the 1930s figured that out with the 1927 flood, and that's a lesson. History teaches lessons, and do not repeat the mistakes of history. And this is something we need to learn from history, that the strategy here is to keep water out of the downtown to the maximum extent possible by trapping it outside the corporate limits. And I think this grant is an opportunity for that. I'm not sure where that money will come from to get that kind of momentum going. It's a project that needs to be done. I think the man who could run the project would be Steve McKenzie himself as a consultant. He's an engineer. He understands municipal issues. And if you had the money to fund a program, Steve could be the czar of getting the Potash Brook and the Gunner Brook under control, and doing a real benefit and a real service and a long-term benefit, not only for us, but for generations to come in the downtown area. So yeah, I'm harping on it, and I appreciate your patience in allowing me to talk, and I will shut my mouth now. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Oliver. And let me just say, we know nothing that you just said is lost on us. It's the Stevens branch who left out one of the biggest culprits, the Potash Brook and the Gunner Brook. Those all affect our city and negatively impact our city. But let me tell you this, and let me make this clear. Councilor Guston was, as was I, she can be very persuasive, was a huge proponent of applying for $3 million in mitigation funds for the Potash Brook. We submitted pre-applications to ACCD, to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. We were told, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nicholas, we were told in no uncertain terms that because of the lack of planning, because we didn't have plans, we didn't have engineering, that would not be a competitive grant. Correct. Now, ACCD is here to help us. They have been great working partners, but it was their polite way of saying, don't bother. If you submit this grant, you will walk away with nothing. We'd rather see you submit a planning grant. There is a second round, Oliver. I do anticipate that there should be these are 2023 flood funds. There should be a 2024 allocation coming out of Congress if they don't shut the government down for too long a period of time. So, Oliver, nothing that you've said is lost on us. We know how important it is, but we're simply reacting to the feedback that we got from our pre-application grants. And if we had continued down the path with that $3 million request, we would have come away with nothing. I can virtually guarantee that. Mr. McKenzie, did you have something to add?
Yes, in the interest of full disclosure, I did not just talk about this with Oliver before the meeting. I appreciate his endorsement, but the paid political ad wasn't solicited.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else and Oliver, what I would encourage you to do, and you have been involved, you're involved in the downtown, you're invested in this city, and thank you for that. Pay attention to the agenda, because you're going to be, it's published in the paper. I know you get the Times Argus. Please pay attention, because we would like your feedback as we move through the planning process, and there is going to be a lot of planning, there's going to be a lot more grant applications, there's going to be a lot more to come, so I'd really encourage you to stay involved with that. Anyone else under visitors and communications? Okay, moving right along. Council, I'll move to the consent agenda. Ask you to approve the minutes of 9/24/25. I believe, Madam Clerk, you've got the SHS Spalding High School Parade.
Yes,
Under
the SHS Homecoming Parade is set for Saturday, October 4th at 4 p.m., routing from the BOR to City Hall Park.
Thank you.
Has been approved by all departments.
Thank you for that. Council will ask you to approve the citywide idling policy. We'll ask you to ratify Council's 9/24 decision to authorize a manager to negotiate an extension of the Prospect Heights real estate option. I believe you all had that in your, the final option. He did in fact do that, and you all had that in your email box today. Do you have any contracts, sir?
No contracts, no.
And the manager does not have any contracts to authorize, so a motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second?
Second, I'll second.
Yes,
And
any
then we can
questions?
talk, yeah. I have a couple of questions about the minutes. Under, yes, under consent agenda item 4D, it says authorize 12-month extension option for negotiation of, yes, and that got left out.
Yep.
So that needs
Yes,
to be
I'm
clear.
already aware of that one.
Okay, good. And then there were a couple of three typographical errors. Do you want those now, or should I just send them to you in an email?
You can send them to me.
Okay, that works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
So I have a question about the idling policy, which I brought up the first time, and before we go ahead and approve it, I'd like to suggest we add a little bit of language. Under 5, it says that the city will explore telematics systems to monitor idle times and improve efficiency. And then under 6, it says supervisors will conduct random checks and review telematics data. But if we're only exploring it and we don't actually have it, how are we going to review the data? So I think we need to maybe add another part to that sentence that says if available, or, because if we don't follow through with buying it, it seems silly to reference that we're going to look at that data.
That's fine if that change wants to be made. Counselor Spalding, I think the way we interpreted that is they would only do so if we had it. So it's basically like an if-then. So I don't, we can bring it back if.
Oh, I mean, I don't think
don't have
it's,
to bring it.
I don't
We
think
could-
it's a
we can change it
substantive
if
available.
change.
We can change it on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fly.
Yeah,
If available.
Just want to put if available,
Oh, got
comma, the.
yeah, can we
Perfect.
just do that? Perfect,
Yeah, that
thank you
works.
so much.
Thank you.
It's just a point of clarification.
Yeah, yeah,
so I don't
that
think it
works.
Substantially changes the policy.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, thank you very much. Council will move on to item 4A. We'll be approving the city warrants of the week of 9/30/25 and and approving a letter of support for the Vermont Historical Society Regional Priority List application.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, abstention, so noted. That's Councilors Guston and Spalding abstained. Motion carries. I'll let you catch up. And go.
Okay. Clerk report. To date, I have sent out 321 ballots for the CBCC election. Hopefully after this evening, the Barry bonds will be available for mailing and requesting. Because there are two separate ballots going out, we're going to put a color coding. We're going to create the Barre City ballots on a different colored sheet of paper just to make them easier to determine which is which when it comes to tallying on the election day or election night. And some of the ballots that have already gone out have indications of which election it is in the corner to clarify when they come back in, they can be separated as well. Just remember to sign your ballot envelopes, the certified envelope, please, or you will get a phone call or an email stating it needs to be corrected.
Thank you. Questions, Council? Okay, thank you very much. So I'll call the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board to order. Council, before you have a first and second class license for Campo Divina. I believe it has all department approvals. Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, Liquor and Cannabis Control Board is adjourned, and you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, like last week, I don't have an update besides I've been working on these grants. We're very happy that they have been submitted, and I just want to, again, recognize the sort of the core team that was working on that, and that was from the city staff, Janet, Pat Moulton from the state, Josh Jerome from BADC, and Jim Levinsky, who we hired and was a great hire, put together great applications. So a lot of hours from the team. These are very complex applications. I'll make sure to send them around tonight. But they're all in. Our final tally ended up being, as we discussed last week, $27.5 million. 10 million for the 355 North Main project, approximately 8 million for the North End project, and 5.4 million for Prospect Heights, 2.8 million for the Willie Street Bridge, 856,000 for Harrington Avenue, $268,000 for the stormwater projects, and $68,000 for the Potash Brook. So really comprehensive applications, and I think the next steps now is the board will meet on November 20th. We don't know if we'll get decisions right around that time. So we will be, we'll certainly follow up and keep the public and the council informed about the process steps. But that's the next one we know is that the board meeting is November 20th. There may be information before. There may be follow-ups before. And then, of course, even though we submitted today, there's certainly interest and excitement about a second round. And so we'll also keep you updated about that as we learn more about when that might be and how that might look. So again, a lot of effort on it, and it was a real collaborative team effort, and we're really happy with how the applications turned out. We'll make sure to share them with you so you can see the scope of the work that went into them.
Questions? Yes.
Could you expand a little bit upon what's going on with the parking over at City Hall Park with the permit-only stuff and such?
Yeah, that was, so that was in response to some of the activity that's been going on at the park. There'd been some vandalism, there'd been some littering, some worse than littering.
Sure, yep.
Some, dog activity that, that had been taken care of. So what we did is we initially started by bagging the meters on the park side of the park to address those concerns that we just couldn't keep up with. And then what happened is the churches asked us about bagging the other side of it, because then basically all the challenges shifted to that side of the street. Yep. So what we've done is, I think Councilor Hilgardner asked about this when it had come up. And so we met with the churches. And so for now, in order to address the stuff that had been going on at the park, we've made it permitted parking. The churches, the People's Health and Wellness Clinic, which have sort of a regular use of that area, have been given temporary permits to use that site. We have flexibility to revert back to the old meters or keep it as is or come up with a longer term solution. Right now, this was sort of a short term solution to address the situation in the park. And like I said, the churches and the clinic have been engaged so that they would have been the most directly impacted, and so they have now access to those spaces without interruption. We've talked to the police department, is aware that they're not to enforce the permit signs on Sundays during services. They're also not to enforce it during Opera House events, which is another time when that area gets used. And we've actually talked to the Opera House, and what they're planning to do is encourage their ushers and staff to use that parking lot, so that what that will do is they will be able to travel out sort of together to that spot, and it will free up the spots that they would normally take up in Merchants Row. So we're trying to mitigate the impact of the confusion, but the immediate sort of users of that area have been engaged, and like I said, nothing's permanent. We're just sort of we're trying it out, and we're working with the people who are most directly impacted. And so far, it seems to be working. So,
So where would you suggest folks go to park when they want to hang out in City Hall Park? Say, for example, we were going to have a gathering at City Hall Park. Where would you want them to?
So we've added if it's a formal event, and I think Councilor Spalding, for her event, we talked about this. We've added a line into the event application form if somebody's hosting an event at the park, that their event can become sort of permitted parking for something official like that. And so that was something that we changed in the form, so anything that comes in, so for example, Councilor Spalding submitted her application, we looked at it, we were still in the process of amending the form, and right after, when we did it sort of verbally, I said, would you like to use parking for your event? She said yes, and so what then we do is, because the police department sees that form, they're aware that there's no enforcement with that event, so.
So would you encourage folks, residents, to apply for one of those or put one in if they're going to have?
If they're
any
doing a
kind of-
formal event, yeah, if they're doing a formal event.
I ask, because we're going to be doing, just in general, in the next 6 months or so, we'll be doing a lot of different things within the park.
Yeah.
So I just, ask.
Yeah, the event application form's available on our website, and what happens is we receive it, it goes around to all the department heads, and they flag issues, and right now, if it is a park event, that'll be a question that's triggered. Same thing like.
In short, Counselor, we're hopeful that the people who can't respect public property, can't respect city employees, can't respect law enforcement, can't respect their neighbors, we're hoping they get the message. We don't want you here. If you want to come and hang out, we love everyone. But when you want to make life miserable, when the churches start to complain, you know that there's a canary in the coal mine. When they're sick and tired of behavior. It's not a high bar.
Right.
Don't litter. Don't let your dog poop all over the sidewalk. Don't tie your dog to a meter so that if someone goes to park there, they're intimidated by your dog and don't know if they should approach the meter to put a quarter in.
Right.
Just be a good neighbor. So I'm fully supportive.
Certainly.
I'm also very hopeful that we'll figure it out quickly, because for moms or people who just want to take their kids to the park, it's an inconvenience, and it's disappointing to me that we have to inconvenience people for the poor behavior of some. Yes, sir.
There was a discussion.
You need to come up to the, because otherwise it doesn't broadcast, the microphone just won't pick up that far. And if you wouldn't mind stating your name when you sit down, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm Jeff Police on Courier Street. There was a discussion at one point of setting up motion sensor lights, motion sensor cameras at certain parks, certain locations where behavior was not. I was wondering if the discussion had continued on that.
We're actually, the manager is acting on that.
Yeah. I can provide an update. We've had the one facing City Hall Park remains in place. That was the sort of the pilot camera that we had. We've had to install electrical and wiring for the other cameras. We've gotten the one behind City Hall facing down Merchants Row is installed, and then there's one on the other end of Merchants Row, which is actually, we worked with the owner of Sidewalk Village, and he allowed us to install it on his building. The two that are left that were approved by the City Council require work with East Coast Signals. I'm pointing to Public Works Director. They need to install, because they're going on traffic signals, the traffic lights, they need to do that work, and so it's a timing issue of getting those contractors in. But two of the four are active, well, three of the five. There was two of the new ones have been installed since the one on City Hall Park was activated.
And are there plans on how to monitor those or how to file the recordings? So if something does happen.
Yeah, the police chief presented, I think it was at the suggestion of the council that we had a policy for use of the cameras that the police chief proposed and was approved. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, any other questions for the city manager? Listen, I just wanted to echo what you said earlier. I participated in many of the DR meetings with Nicholas and his team. A tremendous amount. I mean, this is pivotal for the city. And it was just a tremendous amount of work. A lot of times we were kind of firing back at people and critiquing their work kind of, in real time, rapid fire. Never lost your cool. That surprised me. Thought you would a couple of times, but really just, I can't thank you enough. You and the team, just a phenomenal job. And I think when you get the applications and you look at both the quality of the applications and the depth of the applications, I think you'll appreciate their work all the more. And we're on to round two.
We are, yeah.
So stay tuned, folks. Council, under new business, we have we're going to be considering a volunteer appointment. Hi, Donna, come on up. How are you? This is Donna Draymond Pulis. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Donna. Donna is applying for the Cemetery Committee. Why don't you just tell us a little about yourself? What interests you with the Cemetery Committee?
Well, I grew up in Barre and graduated from Spalding. And I then moved to California, where I had most of my teaching career. I was a history and English teacher there. And I just, I love Barre, and I would come back, annually. And then when my husband and I retired from teaching, I said, we're moving back to Barre, and he loves it here too. I've always had an interest in all kinds of history, and I wanted to thank Councillor Guston for assisting with the Lafayette Day flag, honoring Lafayette's historic visit. And but I just love history, and I guess I never realized until I left Barre that not every community is crazy about their cemeteries. and people just would look at me, when I would say, yeah, we'd go to the cemetery for a picnic, or we just go look at the stones. And even my husband, it took him a little while to get it, and he would just shake his head and say, Barre girls. And we get a creamy and then go to Hope Cemetery after, that kind of thing. I love the history of that is encapsulated there in our cemeteries, and just the stories and the families and the stones, and I love everything about it. And so as I was thinking, what do I want to get involved in my retirement years, it was just kind of a logical connection for me. So I just wanted to try to be of service to the committee. I did attend, I think it was your last meeting.
Yeah.
And just trying to understand, what do y'all do, What's involved in maintaining all of the cemeteries. So anyway, I was just hoping I could be of help to the committee in any way.
So we didn't scare you away.
No. I thought they kind of tried to, but it was very interesting to me. And I do think there's just a lot of work to be done, and I could possibly be of service.
Well, thank you. Thank you for wanting to serve, first of all, for wanting to serve your hometown in your retirement. Pretty exciting times for the Cemetery Committee. I'm actually the liaison from the council to the Cemetery Committee. Because of Mr. Cozy's very generous and substantial bequest, we'll be planning for a fountain and planning a lot more improvements. So it's really going to be probably one of the busier and more exciting times for Hope Cemetery. So your service or your willingness to serve couldn't be more timely. Now, do you have an idea how the Cemetery Commission functions, the time required? Because this is a question I ask all applicants, whether they've really considered the amount of time that is required to effectively serve on the committee that they're applying for, and whether you're prepared to make that commitment.
I don't think I'm aware of the details of it, aside from the meetings. I don't know how, do you meet monthly?
Once a month.
Yeah. And I would assume there would be, division of labor of some kind and, helping out with tasks during the month, reporting back. But I have a pretty open schedule. So I think I'd be able to take on whatever they need done.
I'd encourage you, what I'd encourage you to do is reach out to Star LeCompte. You may know her as Star Parnagoni.
Oh, yeah.
So Star is currently the chair of the cemetery committee, so I'd encourage you to reach out to her.
Okay.
But council, unless there are any other questions, a motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just,
Hearing, yes.
well, I just want to say thank you for stepping up, Donna. I saw volunteer appointment on the agenda, and then I scrolled down through the packet, and I was super excited to see your name. So
Great,
I'm
yeah.
thrilled you're stepping
And
up.
it was Jim, was it?
Jeff.
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 What's your excuse, Jeff? Donna's up here stepping up.
And other committees.
Now I'm just picking on you.
I would really like to see a way to get the maintenance of the headstones become a way for, we'll talk about this later.
We'll talk about that later.
I really think there are possibilities here to help some of the more unfortunate people in our community.
Fantastic.
Well, you've got an in on the committee now, so.
There you go. Welcome aboard, Donna. Thank you.
We did, I don't think we technically voted, did we?
We did not vote yet. I took over the comment period party, sorry. So we do have to vote still.
Oh,
I
all those
have
in
a
favor of the
question.
motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Donna has a question.
I have a question.
Oh,
How do I proceed? I mean, I don't have anyone's contact information or,
I'll email you tomorrow, Donna, with, connect you with the chair and some onboarding materials.
okay, great.
The meeting coming
that
up.
was not much of a
Meeting
vote, so I'm
coming
gonna give it, I'm gonna give it a
Yeah, I don't even
do-over.
know when the next
Council, you
meeting
understand the motion as presented. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, welcome aboard, Donna.
Thank you, Donna.
Council, we're a little past, but I have been watching the comings and goings. Warned for 6:30 PM, this is our tax increment financing district public informational hearing. Ladies, how are you?
Good, good. How you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Good to see everybody. A little beat. And Mr. Mayor, off topic, but in response to what was just talked about, I've been in conversations with Tom Baker, our facilities director, about finding a way to find a steady funding source for ongoing maintenance and cleaning of monuments. So we think we've got an idea, planning on bringing it
Fantastic.
forward to the council in a couple weeks.
Fantastic. But today, we're here to talk about TIF.
I'm so sorry. I just didn't come prepared for that. Great. This is our public informational session and hearing for, in anticipation of a bond vote next month. So this is aimed at the council because there's a resolution and a declaration in front of you. However, it is also aimed at the public for anybody listening. When this is recorded, people could refer back to it. So some of it is stuff you've heard before. You've seen us before. Nothing's changed since you saw us back in spring, early summer, but we want to go back through all the components so that it's just fresh on people's minds before the vote next month. So this is why we're talking about this and we should talk about why we want folks to vote, and particularly, I can say this, vote yes on November 4th with this bond vote, is for infrastructure and housing. Those are the two components. So as you talk to your constituents, as people who are listening talk to their neighbors, explain that we are trying to help the deficit of housing in Barre City. We are trying to upgrade really aging infrastructure and elevate the area of this parking lot that's currently a parking lot. So that's why to vote. So tonight we'll talk about what the ask is in front of you, give you a kind of an update on where we've been going and where we're going to, so that you know kind of where we are on the timeline, explain TIF again, sorry, but it's part of the game, and talk a little bit about next steps and that partnership with Downstreet. So the ask in front of you in your packet was a resolution and a declaration. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. You have, I sent you a cover memo with the resolution and declaration. We're required when we get a bond approved to approve the resolution, which essentially says, yes, we're going to agree to borrow the money, and we have the intent of spending it on this particular project as outlined in the bond paperwork. And also, we have an intent to be able to use the bond funds to actually do a look-back period of up to 18 months if we have expenses that we have incurred during this time leading up to the bond vote. We can look back and use bond funds for that period of time too. So that's
So these are mechanisms, yeah,
Yeah.
the mechanisms by which this all comes to fruition. So where we are now, actually, do you want to talk a little bit predating this
Sure.
timeline, just for, again, general?
Okay, the dog and pony. The voters of the city of Barre approved the first TIF project, the first TIF bond for $2.2 million back in 2013. That culminated in a bunch of improvements around parking. That was the initial part of the plan. The plan was mostly focused on parking, and that worked beautifully. However, about 4 years ago, we started looking at where we were with the TIF district, what we had for capacity to do additional projects, and what has changed in the community. We were coming out of COVID. We were also looking at, then we touched on the floods, and the shift was was away from parking needs to housing. And so we went through a number of exercises associated with codifying the needs, looking at where things were. We then approached the Vermont Economic Progress Council. We had to say to them, yes, this is what our project initially focused on, but we'd like to change the focus to housing to meet the needs. As you heard earlier, with the disaster recovery grant program, the need statewide is housing. So we approached VEPC, they approved our change last month. And so now we're set up to move forward with the request for a $2.4 million bond to support the infrastructure portions of the project. So it's the cities, I'm sure Stephanie will go over it, but the city's portion involves making the land available, doing the subsurface infrastructure work, streets, sidewalks, sewer, water, those kinds of things. And then improvements in the surrounding parking area, which will obviously have a larger public benefit too, because that whole parking area will be not only have a better layout, but more aesthetically pleasing to mix in with the aesthetic improvements associated with the housing project.
Yeah, exactly. And so last time you saw us, you approved the application to VEPC to get that approval and to get the state approval. We had a development agreement that was signed. And so now we're at the point where we're going to before the voters on November 4th, which will then set us up. It can give the developer downstreet the opportunity, the confidence to go forward with their project. And we would go out to bid for our infrastructure and incur the first debt coming this winter and start construction in the spring. And that construction will take a season and a half to do. And it's a construction season and a half. So really the city will be doing its work, housing project will do its work at the same time concurrently, and the housing units will come online in summer of 27. We're on track, continue to be on track with what we said before. Not gonna make any promises beyond that. On the Zoom is Steve Cohen from Downstreet. Steve, if you wanna unmute yourself and talk a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you, White and Burke. Thank you all the counselors for all your work and your leadership pushing the TIF bond forward. With the council's action and with the voter support this November, we're another step closer to bringing 31 new affordable homes to downtown Barre through the Stevens Ranch project. Obviously, much needed. It's a really exciting moment, not only for the city, but especially for the families who will one day call these homes their own. Barre has been clear about its commitment to addressing the housing shortage, and this project is a really important part of that effort. The infrastructure improvements funded through the TIF aren't just about making the development possible, they'll also strengthen downtown and help Barre prepare for future growth. With the TIF milestone achieved, we're aiming to begin construction. Stephanie just spoke on this in late spring or early summer of 2026. So it'll be a 3-story, 31-unit building, be flood resilient and highly energy efficient design. Obviously, the building is partially in the floodplain. We're working designs to be amenable to that and durable to any potential future flooding. It would be a mix of studio, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. So we'll offer a lot of different options for a variety of community members. Lots of different folks out there looking for housing. So we want to be able to accommodate all of them. Units will be 688 square feet on average. They'll include heat pumps, high efficiency appliances, triple glazed windows, and high quality finishes throughout. So we're looking for a really high quality product here. There'll be accessible units, and all units will be income restricted between 50 and 80% of area median income. Like all our new buildings, community space will be included in the design to ensure that residents have plenty of space to connect with each other, build relationships, make friends, and have a third space outside of their work and their home. We're looking forward to working closely with the city to make a vision a reality, and together we're not just building housing, we're building a stronger and more resilient community. So again, thank you all for your work on this, and yeah, we're really excited to get this project moving and really grateful for the access to TIF.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that context of kind of keeping our eye on the prize of what is this for, I mean, we all actually, I've talked to so many people who say, I always vote for infrastructure, we understand the need for it, but it's also not necessarily the goal. This is a means to an end to get more housing units online. But as Carol said, with their improvements on that surface parking lot today, the city wants to match that over at the Campbell lot, and also to improve access and circulation there. And because there's going to be shifts, we need to do some wayfinding to help the public find the public parking. Also Seminary Street, the connection between Main Street and Summer Street, that's going to be a big deal, is really improving that, making it a pedestrian friendly and welcoming space along that road. So we're also contributing to the brownfield remediation of stuff that's underneath the surface parking lot today in order to help alleviate some of that pain point for the housing developer. So, there's a lot of improvements here that are rendered in this image. We have advanced the design since we last talked to you. We're actively working with DPW, the engineer, emergency services have vetted this. So it's been, it's an ongoing process. It's not done, but we're getting the cost estimates updated now. So it's ongoing, ready to go to bid this winter. That's continuing to be our goal. So again, it's a $2.4 million bond. We have financially run the numbers. We presented them before the council before. You approved those numbers. The state reviews those numbers, and I just want to say that because I think it's a helpful assurance for any voters that there's a state economist or economist who's hired by the state to vet all of it and has looked at it carefully, so that that it's protected and protected by the development agreement as well. So tax increment financing is the city's way to invest in the infrastructure without adding to the tax rate. So the regular taxpayer does not, and any taxpayer does not change what rate they pay. The developer of the property, if they're making improvements on their property, have a new tax bill based on the value, but all the difference is with TIF is where the money goes. So the money will then go to repay the debt on this, and now you have a higher tax base long-term, and you've got the new infrastructure. So that's how TIF works. So just to remember, November 4th is voting day. It is the same day as, it is already an election day here in Barre. So there are already 2 other votes happening that day. So we're hopeful for a really good turnout. We hope everybody encourages people to get out and vote no matter what. And, you know, to know what they're voting on, which is the Seminary Street upgrades and Campbell Lot upgrades. As I said, there's kind of some other pieces baked in, like the brownfield and the wayfinding, but we really want folks to understand what the dollars are going toward. So that's all I have to present. I'm just willing to take questions if there are any from the council or the community.
Yes, Councilor Guston.
This actually may be more of a question for our Director of Public Works than you guys, but thank you.
Happy to have other people do the questions.
I think he's really here for the next item, but while we've got him, when we first had talked about the infrastructure improvements and say those maps and stuff, I'd asked about making green infrastructure changes to any of the green spaces that we see, those park areas along Seminary Street, some of the center pieces of the parking lot. Have you been able to quote out what it would take to sort of have rainwater sinks in those green spaces?
Don't believe it would be up to the engineer to do that, but it hasn't come up yet in our conversations.
I don't know if that can voice, I'm sorry. We just leave it for Carol. So we did, I heard you say that at one of our last meetings, so we did bring it up, and I believe we're still speccing out some of the costing for doing some sustainable features, which I think the one that stood out the most were to be able to do some sort of solar paneling within the green spaces that would then be also double as like sunshade.
Shade, yeah.
Having that in a small space combined with trees is kind of a hard
Yeah.
combination, but we did ask the landscape architects to look at that. So we're continuing to look at that. As I said, the plans aren't finalized yet.
Yeah, thank you. I think I would be most, I'd love put solar wherever we can, but I think I would be most interested in finding ways to use the green space that we have. You know, we've had some really productive conversations and workshops with Friends of the Niewski River and with the Lake Champlain Sea Grant folks about how you build a green space garden so that it sinks. If every little bit that we can keep from shedding off of those parking lots and going into the river, this presents an opportunity to do
I
that.
think one of the limitations was that we're not regrading this parking lot.
Right.
So I don't know that we have that opportunity to do that with, I mean, we're adding green space.
Yeah.
But, my note to myself is to report on that. We have another meeting or.
Whatever we can do.
Talk to you, but
Thank you.
we're doing due diligence, so you should at least know what the outcome of that due diligence is.
Thank you.
There is a fairly large new green space in front of the Presbyterian Church.
Saw that,
Which
yeah.
may, maybe, able to use that.
Yeah, it could take some of the stuff coming off the roof of the church and, or for that matter, from the new building. Thank you.
Council, any other questions? So, you know, where we'll have our work cut out for us a little bit, leading up to the election, is TIF district is not, they're not terribly complex, but sometimes they seem too good to be true. And you face a lot of skepticism on the part of a voter. Our TIF district was approved in 2012. After COVID, we approached the legislature. We actually will have the longest TIF district in the history of the state of Vermont, because we have a lot of friends in high places.
Love that for us.
Appropriately after COVID, when things really shut down, we approached the legislature and said, we need an extension. Because nothing really got done during COVID. We all were at home, and they granted it. Then, of course, we flooded in 2023, so we approached the legislature again and said, look, we're recovering from a flood. We need the extension. But we all know, I mean, those of us here understand how a TIF district works. And so I guess some of the questions are a little redundant, Carol, but as I understand it, we have capacity, we have money in our TIF district now.
Yes.
The way TIF districts are defined, the way they work, increment, meaning the growth in the grand list, we don't put the money that is supplied to the TIF district, we don't put that on the backs of the taxpayers. That's all incremental money. So as the city grows, as our downtown grows, as we encourage projects, we get to keep that money. Most of the time, it's all going to the education fund or it's going other places, but we get to keep 75% of it, and we get to build that money up. So we find ourselves with capacity. So our TIF district has worked largely as designed. when you're predicting something 20 years into the future, I mean, you're not going to be spot on. I don't care, you know, I don't care if you're Elon Musk. You're not going to be spot on. But we've been pretty good. We've been pretty close. And so if the voters didn't approve this bond, what it would mean is that money that is currently sitting in the TIF district will just go back to the state of Vermont and say, here you go, have a good day. So that's going to be our challenge, because in many respects, the TIF districts seem too good to be true. And so I'll work with you between now and November 4th if people have questions, if there's something you don't understand about the TIF district, how it works, what it will pay for, why are you not paying for it? Can we guarantee you won't pay for it? Ask those hard questions, but this is a really important project for the city of Barre.
One point out about the amount that could be sent back to the state now. The point is, we're gonna grow that even bigger. So that
Right.
what does get brought back to the education fund after we're done is bigger and better than what it was too. Because there's a statewide message here too, and a county, you know, like a regional impact that this is gonna have, because hopefully we're gonna make use of that extension, not just with this project, but maybe another that could really, you know, really grow that grand list even more, so that more is going back to the education fund long-term. And then the second point to make is that we will be developing FAQs. We do them in every community before a TIF vote, but there are specific ones to Barre that, like the capacity issue, like this affordable housing, that makes a difference to the tax calculations. So we want to make sure that's available to you to distribute to people, make it available to send people to.
And before the November vote in 2013, I wrote an editorial that ran in the newspaper to explain how a TIF district works. I was very careful not to, you know, it didn't say vote yay to vote nay, but it would talked about the mechanics, and we'll dust off something like that
And say, vote yes.
Well, that's an important point.
Well, just so we're clear, you were city clerk at the time and running the election, so you couldn't say that,
I'm the
so.
TIF administrator. But I'm also the treasurer, so it's.
You're not running the election now,
I'm your consultant.
don't waffle on me.
Don't do that. But I'm not your lawyer, but I am your consultant, and you all can say vote yes.
Look, I guess what I would say is City Place, Barre City Place utilized TIF. Today, to the city of Barre, it generates $300,000 a year in property taxes. We struggle with our budgets over 25 grand, you know, cutting out seasonal mowing at the cemetery, or considering it, and considering cutting out things like lawn, you know, leaf pickup. $300,000, because the voters of the city of Barre were smart enough to approve the TIF, and it is returning, just that one project is returning $300,000 annually. 3 million over 10 years. 10 years is not a long time. So, fantastic. We'll look forward to working with you more, learning more. Folks, does anyone, either online or counselors, do you have any other questions?
Just a comment. I think it's advantageous that we were allowed to go from parking to housing. Parking doesn't bring in money from the bottom line where housing does. I think if the average person knows that, they'd be more apt to vote yes. We're not looking to build a parking lot. We're building a structure which will bring in income, which goes to the bottom line.
The parking, just to play a little bit on the devil's advocate, the parking was needed to help encourage the improvements that were being proposed, the Blanchard Block City Place, that needed parking for employees. But there's been a shift in the way people work now, with so much more remote work, that the shift has been away from the parking needs and to the housing needs. So I think the most important thing is being able to take a longer term look. You know, a TIF district is 20 years, and you have to think about, you know, what changes have happened over time and how you can be nimble enough to make adjustments, so.
Unless you're the city of Barre, then it's 24 years, but who's counting?
I will also say, you may recall that I was before the council last year about an error that had been made by the state in calculating the education portion of increment, and the state had overpaid to the ed fund over $400,000. Yeah, the city had overpaid to the, we've received that money. We got it a couple weeks ago, and I'm in the process, that only covered half of the life of our TIF district, 5 years. The error in calculations existed for an additional 5 years. I'm in the process of calculating that. It's going to be another $200,000, which will come back to our increment fund, which just gives us additional capacity. So as Stephanie mentioned, there may be other things that come, we still have a couple of years, year and a half before the end of our opportunity to incur debt. So yeah, this gives us more capacity.
Yeah, and I'd encourage voters to look at other communities who are using TIF. I mean, Burlington has had over the past 15 or so years, has had a huge TIF appetite. Now it's our turn. So, thank you very much, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Any other questions? Didn't hear any, but one last call. Any other questions from folks in the audience or members of the council? Okay, then I will close the Tax Increment Finance District Public Informational Hearing. Move to item 8C and look for a motion to approve, and this was in your packet, council, to approve the warning for the special meeting of November 4th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, thank you very much. We'll move to item 8D on the agenda. This is the approval of Necessity Resolution 2025-24 and declaration of intent for a $2.4 million tax increment finance (TIF) district bond. Motion would be in order.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, thank you very much. I'll move to item 8E on the agenda. This is the approval of the Necessity Resolution 2025-25 and declaration of intent for a $3.3 million Public Works renovations bond.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'm actually going to let the manager go through his presentation before I call the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a little bit of context for the public as they will see this on the ballot. We've been looking for a public works solution for many years. Really sort of kicked off the history here from the last 7 years, where councilors toured the old garage. Discussions began about a replacement. In 21, the city hired a firm to assist with the design of a new garage and identify sites. The design presented to the city council in 2022 came with an estimated $30 million price tag and no site identified. In 23, we started looking at additional alternatives, knowing that $30 million wasn't really doable. We toured Newport and Montpelier garages and began to plan for a new garage on the current site. We abandoned that very quickly. I think I've told this story that Brian was meeting with his foreman on the day of the morning of the flood and about sort of laying out that new site. And obviously we abandoned that because the garage was hit in 2023. We began to evaluate alternatives again in 2024, including even, talk about turning over every leaf, like even talking about can the BOR become our garage? And so lots of options that we looked at, and we finally acquired 277 Morrison Road this past year for $3 million. The 277 Morrison Road will serve as our public works garage. As I said, the purchase price was $3 million, and we expected site modifications. It's currently a warehouse, and we needed to transform it into a garage. We did not borrow or raise taxes for the acquisition, but we did say when we were bringing this to you that we would have to bond for the improvements, and that's where we are today. Just a brief summary of the main things we need to do on the site. We need overhead doors. Obviously, we need to drive our cars into right now it's a warehouse, so semis drive to it and get unloaded. We need to drive our trucks inside, so we need ramps and doors. We need to make a mechanics bay also on the site. We needed exterior storage for our salt and sand bunker. We also have to do some outside storage of some bigger equipment on the water sewer side. So there is, even though it's a big site, there are still things that do need to be stored out there just because of moving them inside an enclosed facility is challenging. We need to do interior drainage because when our trucks drive in with snow, we need that melting snow to go, not stay on the floor and then be taken away. And then we needed to renovate the office space there to be able to move Public Works to be all on one site. We have completed preliminary designs. I know this is a little bit hard to read close up, but I do have some closer snapshots of it. We hired DeWolf to do this work, and this shows you really, they designed the exterior work associated with the site. And you can see that sort of what the footprint will be once this is truly a garage for us. These are just sort of corners so that you can get a little better sense. You can see where we have the salt and sand storage, some other things that will be stored outside like crushed stone, and some exterior storage I mentioned that sewer and water storage. Some of those larger pipes that can't be sort of manipulated inside a building will need to be out here as well. Here we have the additional, this is a corner where we will have one of the ramps going in with the overhead door, which will be one of our entrances to the building for our plow trucks. This is sort of the back corner if you're facing the building, where we have an additional access onto Prospect. And again, you can see some of that crushed stone and water sewer storage back there as well. So the estimated total, the exterior improvements were estimated at $1.5 million total, and this was a Dufresne Group estimate based on the DeWolf preliminary plans. We've estimated with contractor the interior improvements that I mentioned to the office space. This includes the drainage as well, I believe, because that's interior. And so the estimated cost, that was $1.445 million. The subtotal of both of those came to $2.995 million, and then we added a 10% contingency, which is normal, and to make sure that we have enough funding to do this project the right way. So with those estimates, with the contingency, we are at a grand total of just under $3.3 million for the bonding for the renovations. Just to give everyone the reference point, this is the estimates are a little bit higher than we initially anticipated. That said, we would be looking at all in a $6.3 million project to have a completely brand new state-of-the-art public works garage. And it is still, even with a slightly increased estimate for the renovations, still a bargain for us. And this is just to give you some data points. Looking at the Marshall valuation is from the assessing world. This is something our assessors provided to us when we were considering this acquisition. If we're looking at a 40 to 50,000 square foot building in excellent condition, as this one is, we'd be looking at a $5.4 to $6.7 million range for that acquisition. Milton, Vermont is building a public works garage. What I did, we took their per square foot cost and applied it to a 40 to 50,000 square foot building. And based on what Milton is paying per square foot, our site would cost 8.6 to 10.8 million. So again, a bargain at 6.3. Albany, New York, again, theirs is very recent. Theirs actually was just constructed. They paid $333 per square foot for their garage, and the range at 40 to 50,000 square foot building would be 13.3 to 16.7 million. East Montpelier, this one was kind of a little bit of an outlier. I don't know if there's other issues there, but they're paying just under 5 million for their garage, and at their cost per square foot, our building would have cost 20 to 25 million. Again, a little bit of an outlier, so I'm just flagging it. And then Acton, Massachusetts was another one that I found was just built, or I'm sorry, they're in the planning phases, I'm sorry, and they're budgeting 700 a square foot to build a 42,000 square foot facility, which translated to us, which for them is going to cost 29.8 million. So you have some Vermont examples, you have some regional Northeast examples. Basically, you have an assessing standard. Basically, every standard we're looking at, we're still in really good shape, and we're getting a bargain for for the residents of Barre City. So that's it. We're asking today for your approval for this resolution to allow us to get this on the ballot and approved. And like I said, it's a total $3.3 million ask for the renovations, which when we are all in would be a $6.3 million public works garage. So thank you.
Can I ask a question? So what is the value of the current building, and could it be sold to someone like Capital Candy?
Yeah, the current building, I don't know if the building has value, the land has value, yeah. I know that, I know Capital Candy's interested, they reached out to me about it when they knew we were moving. What I've said to them is, once we are fully moved out of there, what I would request the council's approval to do is to list the building for sale, just like we did with the Wheelock building, and let the best offers come to the city council, and we would hopefully accept one. It's hard to say exactly what the value is. I think most of the value right now is in that land. I think there's also probably value in our gas tanks. I know our fuel tanks up there. So it's not small. I think there's certainly something that will definitely offset ultimately our cost for
some money
this.
back towards
Yeah,
that.
and we're renting the facility right now. We've been renting it. We're renting it through early next spring. So all that funding is going to also be available to offset bond payments, or God forbid there's overages, we have some funding there that may be available. But certainly our goal would be, councilors, that when we do sell, because I think it's a question of if not, or when, not if, when we do sell the current land, that would also immediately go back to reimburse the water fund, because we paid cash through the water fund, and so our goal was to reimburse that first with the sale of the building.
Yes.
Is there a way to know what the impact will be, like, to the tax rate?
Oh, treasurer?
Yeah, I don't have that right off the top of my head. The bond would be split between the grand list, between the general fund, water fund, and sewer fund, and even those percentages are not an even 50, 25, 25. And I don't have those numbers right in my head, but I can certainly come up with a formula and give you an idea of what the impacts are to those different bodies. So.
I think it would be helpful to have, just like we're going to do for the TIF vote, I think we should have an FAQ, because I think people will want to know why should I vote yes for this? And we're investing in our community.
Absolutely.
And so I think it would be important. It would be a really great piece of information if we could include that.
Yeah, I think we included something similar last year when we had the Headworks bond. We were able to come up with a rough range of what it would be, and absolutely, we'll be doing similar type of voter information campaign that we did last year around that bond, which was also, infrastructure facility improvement, but yeah.
Amy Galford?
Yeah, when the Central Vermont Solid Waste Management District built their building that's just wrapping up construction up in Berlin, they got a couple small grants from, it's PACIF, I think, the insurance, is that through Vermont League of Cities and Towns?
Oh, passive. Yeah.
Passive. So I don't know if there's anything like that. There were certain items that I think, because they were safety related, so I don't know if that's anything.
Yeah, Amy, we get some of those. We get some of those grants. They tend to be smaller dollar amounts. I'm trying to think of some of the ones we've gotten recently. We would probably use those grants to maybe purchase some new equipment at the new garage. As I understand, those grants tend to be at or around $10,000. So at the most, yeah. So they're not going to finance the construction or that part, but certainly we've used it to buy safety equipment for our DPW crews, and we'd certainly use them for any new equipment that maybe is outdated and we don't want to move up there.
Benefit the insurance of anything at all for the city that, like, you've got a lot of stuff that you have to store outside right now, right? That'll be inside, or at least in better conditions?
Yeah, we're going to see, insurance saving just from not being in that building down.
The new building
and-
is sprinklered,
New
which
build,
is
yeah.
going to make a difference.
And, right, and the heat, we're going to, heating fuel, we'll have all sorts of operational savings from being on that site. Not to mention that there is, and we talked about this when we were acquiring it, that it's one thing people could have argued against it with slightly larger footprint than we technically need. We could survive in a smaller building. So there may also be opportunities to rent out some space. We've talked about, Berrytown, allowing them to have a truck there, maybe as sort of a satellite location, and that could bring in some revenue as well. So I think operationally, we're going to be just so much better off at that location. Even though we still need to have a little bit of outside storage, most everything else that we really value is going to be indoors, sprinklered, secured, locked up. So it's going to be a huge improvement for us all around.
Yeah, so that would be a good thing, like to Councilor Spalding's point about, educating people, like, why should you vote for this? Like, yeah, it's a lot of money up front, but it's going to save on the things.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I've encouraged the manager to do is to reach out to V-Trans. They have not replaced their central garage that used to be on the Barre Montpelier Road. And one of the things that, quite frankly, they're choking on is the cost to replace it. They have a site identified, but the construction costs keep going up and up and up and costing tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars, and they're struggling with it. So, everyone knows it was my building. I sold it to the city. I actually had a conversation, after I had a conversation with the manager, V-Trans called and said, gee, what are you doing with this big building that's going to be vacant? And I said, I'm sorry, the city of Barre beat you to it. But I think it is, that part aside, yes, I was the one who sold it to the city at a bargain. Look, I've been developing property my whole life. This would have cost the city 4 times this amount easily. It wouldn't have cost, East Montpelier is a little different. It's smaller. It's only, what is it, Brian, 10? It's a 10? I think it's a 10,000 square foot building. So when you get bigger costs, incremental costs actually come down. So, East Montpelier probably isn't a great comparison, but I don't see how anyone could do a project like this ground up for less than $350 a foot. It just wouldn't happen. And that would translate, and keep in mind, this building also has a mezzanine for storage. So even though we talk about it a lot like it's 50,000 square feet, it's actually 80. There's actually 2 levels in one section. So, far and away, this is a problem. And I think, Councilor Guston, you said it best at the time. This is a problem that the city had struggled with generationally. We hadn't been able to solve this problem, and, that building stunk when I was a kid, for God's sakes, and we just hadn't been able to fix it. So to manage the expectation on selling that building, I wouldn't take it if you gave it to me. It may have, no, honest to God, I wouldn't. I might, it would obviously have value to the neighbors. I could see why Capital Candy might want it. But as far as anyone wanting to say, hey, I want that building, I don't think you're gonna, maybe Stevie Wonder, but that's about it.
I have one question for the manager. In previous discussions, we talked about a satellite site for skid steers, bobcats. That's still in the works?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be, what we would do is if we, when we're ready to vacate this location on Burnham Street, we would carve out a small section where we could keep the skid steer, the sidewalk plows here, so that they don't have to drive all the way down the hill. Yeah.
And we have to build a small garage for
We'd
that.
probably build like a small metallic shed. Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Guston.
If this bond is approved, where are we on our timeline?
We have started to engage with Berrytown on the DRB approvals that we need. We started going to, actually, I just posted today, Brian completed the RFP for the construction management services. For this, we have the preliminary design that'll go to final design. So I think Brian, we're still on schedule to start, right?
Yeah, I think we're looking, hopefully, a spring construction start. I was just working with the schedules on the construction management with the architect and engineer, and it's a tight time frame, but we're still looking for a spring construction, and hopefully we can move in before next winter. Possibly.
Right.
Ward 3 is right below it, so we'd be the first one plowed out, correct?
Well, you
Quite
just sold
worked out,
everybody
right?
Ward 3, look at that.
Any other question? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Deering.
So realistically, we could start looking at some savings based on new facilities in the next 12 to 18 months for the budget?
Yeah, I think we'd still budget, we still have to at least budget at least half the year where we are now. But yeah, I think we'll start, and they won't happen all at once, but it'll be much more efficient. Our insurance will probably go down almost right away. The heating fuel will go down right away. So we will, we're gonna start seeing it immediately when we're on day one up there.
Just trying to sprinkle some light
Yeah.
into that too, you know?
Absolutely.
That tax relief.
Any other questions, council, or anyone?
I'm excited for the party we throw at the old building.
No, we're not blowing up. Okay?
Or a sledgehammer.
Persistence, that's all I'm saying.
We have big loaders that would probably push that building right over.
That sounds like fun,
but
too.
That's about the best we're gonna
Just saying,
do.
we should celebrate our wins.
We can.
Knows how to throw parties for things that are being destroyed.
Yeah.
For progress, Carol, for progress.
It's about the trestle versus the.
Tom, I think there's,
I've already claimed the Newbury building.
Yeah, she
that's
said
just
that
the
last
cursor.
week.
Oh, no,
That's the
that's
cur- that's the
mouse, I
cursor.
think.
oh,
Yeah, that's just the cursor. See?
Okay, council, motion has been made and seconded to approve the necessity resolution 2025-25 and declaration of intent for a $3.3 million public works renovations bond. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Council will move on to the flood resiliency plan update. Councilor Guston?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to vamp a little bit and let the city manager bring his presentation up tonight. We will be, one of the things that the flood plan calls for is increased and improved communications between the city and residents, between residents and each other, between residents back to the city. So the city manager is going to update us a little bit on our progress with Regroup and with city communications, especially ahead of, God help us, it's almost winter storm season again. So the Regroup app is going to play a role in that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Guston. So this is just, again, a reminder of, and I'm sorry, this is a little small on the screen, and I will email it to everyone and post it on the website, but this is just a reminder of what section 2.2 of the plan says, which is communication upgrades, and a key part of that was how the city, improving how the city communicates, especially in emergency situations, with the residents here. And so what is Regroup? It's a messaging system. It's an app. We purchased it. We subscribe to it as a city to communicate important updates directly to residents' phones. Really important is that this app is free to download and use for you as a user. So if you're a Barre City resident, if you have a family member in Barre, if you work in Barre, if you go to, whatever your connection is to Barre, you want to get our updates, it is free to download and use. We pay a subscription fee of $5,000 a year to be able to communicate with people in our community this way, but you as a user do not have to pay a dime to download it or to use it. And the really nice feature of this is that you receive an in-app notification on your cell phone. So it pops right up, it interrupts what you're doing. It shows up as a banner on your home screen, and it really gets your attention. Well, we have the sign up, and the sign up instructions are on our website, and I'll skip to this slide. And this last box here said to follow them very closely. It is the one thing that it's a little clunky to register. It's multiple steps, but we've created a step-by-step, screen-by-screen manual for you to basically go from downloading it on your phone to being able to use it. So if anyone out there still hasn't signed up, what you can do right now is go to the Barre City website, barrecity.org. Right on the top of our website is a banner over the logo that says sign up for Regroup messages. That takes you to the screenshot I'm showing here on the right. And you have, click on that instructions. It brings up a step-by-step. I think there's 12 or 13 steps. So like I said, it's a little long, but if you follow it to a T, you will be signed up and getting these messages on your phone. This is what, right now we have 973 subscribers to the Barre City resident channel. This is great. We are, certainly it slows down. It slows down from when we sort of rolled it out. There's been bumps at certain times of the year, but we've been, right now we're not getting that many. We get maybe a handful a month of people signing up. There's also, just as I pointed out, there's no residency requirement. So if you are somebody who lives in Barre Town and works in Barre City, if you drive through Barre City, and so you want to know what our roadwork alerts are, you can sign up for it. I know, for example, employees of the school district who may or may not live here sign up for it as well. So encourage not just Barre City residents, but anybody can sign up to get these messages. The screenshot here is sort of what a message will look like on your phone. This is the last message I sent on Friday for the planned water and sewer work for this week. And as you can see, we get pretty good these get delivered. There's a couple of bounced messages here, but 860 delivered, 13 bounced back. And the discrepancy between the number there and the 973 is that the 973 also includes city staff. They're all added. Everyone is added to the same channel, but city staff also gets separate messages as well. So that's why there's a little bit discrepancy in the numbers. But overall, you can see that people are active on it. They're getting them. They're being delivered, and hopefully people are seeing them.
What would call a bounce? Just your phone was shut off?
Yeah, it probably is someone who they may have uploaded it incorrectly. They may have deleted the app from their phone. Maybe it could be somebody. It could be Dawn Monahan who moved and deleted the app from her phone, and so now they're bouncing in Minnesota.
I bet she keeps it for just nostalgia.
She might. So those are generally the features. Somebody who's no longer, they're in our system. Yep. We haven't deleted them from our system, but it's not getting delivered because they've cut the cord to the program.
Gotcha.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Sure.
Everything that you're saying is it's on your phone, but what if you don't have a cell phone? I also
thank you,
get
yes.
emails.
Yes.
So I wonder if some of the bouncing is like incorrect email address or something
That
like
could
be.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Spalding. I get trapped in that because I know most people have phones, not everyone does. We get emails sign up as well, and so you could be getting, I think this was overall size. This could also be emails as well. But yes, if you don't have a phone, you can get it sent directly to your email as well. So, and if you have them both set up, you like I do, you get both.
Yeah, which is really nice because sometimes I don't have my phone. I'm not paying attention to my phone, but it comes in on my email and then I know what's going on.
Exactly. Thank you for that reminder because I get trapped in the phone issue, but I know that it's not universal. I know most people are using it on the phone, but it also has email capabilities as well.
Ask one follow-up on that as well, sorry. And you may be about to cover this, but last time we had this conversation, we talked about onboarding people who only have home phones. And we weren't quite ready to roll that out yet. Are we closer to that? Are we there?
Yeah, I think we're going to try to roll that out before the winter parking ban. Part of it is also reaching those people. It's sort of a chicken and egg situation. What I've done is and we haven't had anybody do this yet, but I've instructed my assistant that if anyone calls and has an issues and they only have a rotary phone, to have us, we will manually upload them. So it hasn't happened, but I think it's like I said, chicken and egg because we struggle to reach those people anyway. And so what we may do is, what I've been thinking is we do the monthly Times Argus ad. We'll probably add something there to see if we get some people who maybe read the paper getting in that way.
Could I also suggest maybe we do something at the polls?
Oh, we can,
idea.
yeah.
Because that might be a demographic who's kind of paying attention, but maybe not.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So those folks who get a voice message?
Yeah.
Are they a separate group?
We don't have any now. So we don't have those.
No, and the only reason I ask is there's a lot of time when you'll send this out at 11:30 at night.
Yeah, that's true.
So just something you might, thinking back to the days when you'd get that robocall from the school at 5:45.
BT alerts was going off in the middle of the night at one point too.
Yeah, so just something to consider if you can set them up separately.
Absolutely, yeah. So they would, and the reason we did that separate is because the way our contract works with Regroup, we have a limited number of direct text messages and voice messages we can send. So we didn't want to make, while we're comfortable making the whole app available to Barrytown, Berlin, Montpelier, we don't want to be paying extra for those people to get voice messages. We want it to be, make sure it's Barre City residents who get that. So we will certainly try to reach those individuals as well, and certainly try to sort of amp up our efforts to do that. The polls idea is great, and we will try to do the paper ads as well. Just the benefit of these communications, they're timely and convenient, and again, I'm the bias towards the cell phone, but for most people that use this, they're getting, and even if you're on your email and you have your email on your phone, you're probably getting a ding or a buzz or a vibration, and it's coming right up on the banner of your phone, so it's really hard to miss it. And for, like I said, for those people who do have their cell phones, and like many people have and are obsessive about them, it's hard, right, not to get these messages if you're signed up. It's free, also a great benefit, right? So you don't have to pay a dime, and you can get information. You know, we talk about using the paper, and the paper is a great resource too, but you have to have a subscription, and it doesn't come out every day, and there's a lag in getting it out. So this is a way to get people immediately and without cost. One feature that I like, and why we recommended this to the council last year, was that it's Barre specific message. So, and I know that, you know, VT alerts, depending on how you configure it, you might get a message from parts of the state that you're not in. And so for me, you know, when I inherited a phone from a former city staffer who had already configured this VT Alert account, and for me, it became very easy to tune out my VT Alert messages because most of the time they didn't impact me. And I still get Montpelier messages, which still don't impact me really. So what I like about Regroup, and what I think is really helpful for residents, is when they see that, you know it's important and it's relevant to you. Right, and so it's harder to ignore, hopefully, because you've associated Regroup with a Barre City message to you. It's also flexible and adaptable. I mean, this is, we can send graphics, we can send images, we can send maps, we can do, you know, fonts. Like it is something that we can do that's catchy, and hopefully people will be responsive to. It's also, as Councilor Guston mentioned and alluded to, Regroup was really essential to being able to do some winter parking ban reform last year. These are just a reminder of some of the rules and the pilot that we ran last year with new winter parking rules. Overall, it was successful. Did we have a couple of iffy nights? Absolutely, but generally speaking, it really worked, and we're really prepared to do it again. And we told the public at that point that part of this being successful was you, the resident, had an onus to be informed, and we were doing our part by giving you this platform to be informed, and it worked. You know, I think, like I said, there were a couple nights when the towing numbers were a little bit higher than usual, but overall we were able to make it work, and this was a big reason for that. So that's it. I certainly would ask the council and members of the public who are happy with Regroup to encourage people who don't have it to sign up. Hopefully we'll get another uptick of registrations here as we approach winter parking ban season. And I'm open to ideas of how to reach people. Like I said, love the polls idea. We'll do the ad. Yeah, so thank you.
Councilor Guston.
If I'm remembering correctly, back when we first started talking about this particular app, there was the ability to geofence. Is that ability still present? Have you considered playing around with it?
It is. We've tried. We've considered it. I've sort of resisted using it because so many of our messages, you know, when I think about it, it may be, some of them may be specific to a location, but in reality, they tend to be citywide. So for example, even if we only have a water service shut off in a particular part of the city, that part of the city may have, the impacted resident may not have Regroup, but their parent may, or their sibling may, and they get the message, and so they can notify. So we've resisted it just for that reason, that there's probably some interconnections between people who are within an impacted area and not. So something we can certainly explore, and we might make use of. It's very, very specific, but generally speaking, we've erred on the side of, let's just notify everybody, even if there's a water break on my street, Liberty Street, and it impacts just me and my neighbors. Yeah. it might still, maybe my neighbor doesn't have regroup, but somebody else could notify them, and so there's value there. So we've avoided it for that reason at the moment.
Sometimes we're not quite accurate.
Yeah.
Sometimes we say,
Yeah.
oh, it's impacting these streets, and it actually impacts a few more before we realize it. So, I mean, I would support that approach. We're three
that makes
square
sense.
miles. We're a big party. So I just let everybody know. Yes.
I also think, that did happen to me because I got a regroup message and my husband's work was like in the area that I don't know if the water was it was boil water or getting shut down. And so I sent it to him. I'm like, did you get this? He's like, where did you get this information? He didn't even know about regroup, but now you have a new person because he was like, yeah, I should be signed up for this. So I think it can be helpful. But back to the polls suggestion, I also wonder, there's a couple of things. I think I'm hoping we can, encourage more people to sign up who have the ability to go on the website and do it themselves. But I also wonder if there might be someone there who might help someone who has a phone, who just might need a little technical assistance to walk them through the steps right there. Or if they're like, I don't have a cell phone, maybe we can get their name and number right then to sign them up so we can.
Absolutely.
I still have a whole stack of, when we did the flood walks and when we did the workshops at the library, I printed out a whole bunch of, actually Tess Taylor, excuse me, more accurately, printed out a whole bunch of the presentations for how to sign up. So I just have a whole stack of paper, step by step. I'll bring.
That's perfect.
Councilor Deering, do you have?
Do you think Mr. Kirby would be interested in hanging out the day at the polls?
He might, yeah. He'd be the candidate for the job.
I don't know how people-y he is. I know he's very techie.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's the one who, he helped me write the PowerPoint. I mean, we had to get it down to a science to do the registration. So he's the person who can sort of troubleshoot it with his eyes closed, yeah.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Nice job. I think overall, I think it's worked pretty well. I think even the winter parking, I thought worked pretty well. I had a few irate people call me and, well, I was out of town.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you know it was going to snow? It's like,
But in all seriousness,
I could have told them.
There were a couple of times I found out it was going to snow because I got a winter parking ban notification. I was like, wait a minute, what, that much snow?
So I think overall, I mean, there are always those inconvenient times where you've got to sympathize with people. I mean, one person called me, they happened to be hospitalized when the parking ban went. We're not going to fix, but if you look at what might have gone a little sideways on us, the fact that we were able to help so many people with parking, it just really outweighed, the very few times that, wish we hadn't told them. But then again, we didn't know.
Right.
So, good job, I think, overall. Council, we'll move on to item 9, which is upcoming business. I mean, as far as my focus goes, my focus will continue to be on quality of life issues. We'll be meeting with some area folks this week just to talk about how we can maybe do things better, how we can work together better, how we can do things better. Obviously, we have, hate to say it, but summer's over, totally. You wouldn't know it by today's day, but it's going to turn quickly. So I'm going to be engaging with some of our area churches just to talk about what they think this winter might look like, what the motel program's going to look like, and how the city might be impacted. And again, it's all of these conversations from my point of view are, how can we work better together? How can we have better communication so that we know what each other's expectations are? So, yes.
Just on upcoming business, believe it or not, if we did a flood resiliency plan update every 6 months, we'd be coming up in early November again. However, we left it as a 6 to 12 month, and I would seek feedback from councilors. We don't have to do it now, but please reach out to me and review it and think about that. I think it's probably going to make sense to push it to more like an 7 or even 8 months, because we've been so focused on the CDBG grants, which are flood resiliency related. We haven't necessarily drilled down into the plan as much over this particular 6-month period. So I'm just putting this out there for everyone to consider, that we use the flexibility within the plan itself and look at more like an 8 or even a 9-month update of the plan. So.
And one other thing I'd like to talk about, I mean, really, it's an optimum time. We, had a permit from the Agency of Natural Resources to remove 200 cubic yards of sediment from the riverbed. It's so dry. There really wouldn't be a better time to, I mean, you could literally get an excavator in the river channel and dig it out a lot easier and not have to. So I'd just like to maybe talk with Brian about how we end up how we can renew those permits and do a little bit more work at strategic places around the city. It's just a great time to do it. I mean, literally, you could almost drive a car in the Stevens, four-wheel drive in the Stevens branch and not get stuck. It's that low. So
No one tried that at home.
well, we're not complaining, but it would be a great, because you can see also, you can actually see what's going on, and it's amazing in some of the areas where you never get to see just how much sediment is filling the riverbed. There's other areas where there's a 2-foot pool of water, and then there's other areas where there's 4 feet of dirt mounded up. I mean, that's a 6-foot difference in the riverbed. So if you could, maybe next agenda, and that work can continue throughout the winter.
Absolutely. And just a note for the council, we had a couple of switches with meetings because of the timing of this hearing and the last hearing as well for CDBG-DR. So we had to flip-flop some of our meetings. So just a reminder, the next council meeting is the 21st. In October, we're meeting the 21st and 28th.
Yep.
So just a reminder on that.
Yep. Fantastic. Roundtable, Mr. Daring.
Oh, man. I've got nothing to say today. Just be kind, be safe, be responsible. That's what we teach at school every day. So if you can't be kind, safe, and responsible, then just choose to keep your head down and shut your mouth. I'll end with that.
Okay. Would that be it? I'll pass. I was gonna say.
Just a quick shout out. I am wearing head to toe Slowpoke Exchange tonight. Huge fan of what Matt and Chris are doing and bringing quality business to the Barre City area. And they have genuinely phenomenal clothes. So check them out before you go buy something new. Look for something thrifted right here in Barre City.
Fantastic. Councilor Bergeron.
Well, I had the honor of being at Fenway Park Saturday afternoon. My younger son, Jordan, who runs Barre Community Baseball, he's been in here. He was a Vermont recipient of the Tim and Stacy Wakefield Volunteer of the Year Award. Wow. For the state of Vermont. That's great.
Well done.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Do you have to pay for the seats?
Ooh.
All the better.
He got 28 or 30 seats. My wife and I we rented a bus, and he brought coaches and kids, and we all rode down on the bus, like 30 of us, and sat out in the center field bleachers and had a great time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
They're losing 1-0 right now.
I'll watch the rest when I get home. Councilor Spaulding.
I just want to say I'm really excited to go to vote on November 4th. I think we have a lot of great things on the ballot. I'm excited to support CVCC. That's an investment in our students and our bigger community. I'm excited to support the TIF district project, and I'm excited to support the bond for the Public Works building. And I'm just encouraging people, the reason I'm bringing it up again is to encourage people to sign up for absentee ballots or put it on your calendar so you can show up in person.
Thank you. Councilor Ruthier.
Without repeating myself over and over, I'm just happy in Ward 3 with the paving, and now they're being marked. It's just, what a difference.
Yeah.
Everybody has when they're driving their vehicle. It's excellent.
And speaking of paving, we likely we're overdue for a meeting with Secretary Flynn. V-Trans is struggling. I mean, you've seen it in the news. They're really struggling with the budget, but, we keep the secretary in our thoughts and we let him know that, I don't know how the state is going to figure it out, but they really have to figure it out. The roads in Barre City, Route 14, Route 302, they really can't wait until 2029.
30.
2030 now. Yeah. So, I mean, imagine that. And that is, it's not a Barre thing. It's a statewide, I mean, this is V-Trans, so it's statewide, but, Vermont has really got to figure it out in this legislative session. I'll be meeting with Representative Wozniak this week, and that's, one of the big things, one of the really big things on my list. And like you, Councilor Spalding, I'm excited to go to the polls on November 4th. But most importantly, I think after hearing about all of the applications that we submitted, the work on the flood resiliency plan, sort of everything we're doing, I'm really excited for the future. I'm excited for opportunities that if we're smart, if we work together, if we work smart, those opportunities are going to continue to come our way. So excited for those as well. And with that, council, we do not need an executive session. So if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn, we can go home.
Moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you.
Nicholas, I forgot to ask
Nicholas.
you.